Welcome to another episode of the Hoopsfix podcast with me, your host, Sam Nita, full-time British basketball advocate. And this week's show, we have another one of our pros playing overseas. It's none other than Ben Lawson. He's currently plying his trade in Japan, and that is where he spent pretty much most of the last 3 seasons since he turned pro in 2017, 2018. That is right. He did his first year in Cyprus, and since then has kind of carved out a nice career for himself in Asia, in Japan. And unfortunately, the way it is with a lot of our top talent is when they leave the country. I was saying this to Ben just before we started recording, that they leave the country, go to the States, and it's very rare that we see them again for a long time anyway. And I haven't actually seen him in the UK or seen him play since before he went to Western Kentucky, which is a Division 1 school that he attended. So it was really good to kind of get him on the show and kind of talk about his journey, his story so far. Of course, he's still very young in his career, but I still think there's a lot of lessons in there, especially for younger players. Kind of hearing, he was very open and candid about, the fact that he didn't put up mind-blowing numbers at college. He signed in Cyprus and not on a massive deal in his rookie year. He'd given himself 1 year to kind of make it work. Got the numbers that he thought that he would need to kind of move up, and unfortunately didn't get any offers or the offers that he thought he was going to get until a little situation in LA, which you'll hear him go into in the story, and sort of ended up with getting some solid offers in Japan. That's where he first made that sort of transition. But yeah, it was a really good story, and like I said, there's a lot of lessons and takeaways in there, which I think are going to be valuable for sort of some of the younger hoopers that might listen to the show. As always, before we do get into the show, please take 2 seconds to check out our Patreon account, patreon.com/Hoopsfix, patreon.com/HOOPSFIX. There you can help to give us a monthly or annual contribution of as much or as little as you like. It doesn't have to be a lot of money, but I can assure you that goes a long way in helping us do the work that we're doing, trying to grow this British basketball media landscape. For the price of a cup of coffee, for the price of a sandwich, you won't even notice the money leaving your account, but we will notice it. It helps fund the work that we're doing. If you get any value from the podcast, if you get any value from the top 10 plays of the week, from the power rankings, from the content that goes on the website, from the content that we put out on social media, please consider giving us a monthly or annual contribution to help us do the work that we're doing. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about what Ben had to say. You can reach out to me on every single social media platform at Hoopsfix. And of course, if you want some one-on-one interaction, drop me an email, sam@hoopsfix.com. I'll reply to every single one. Anyway, that is enough from me. Here is this week's show with Ben Lawson. Ben, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. Been a long time coming. Obviously, you are coming at me from Japan. I know it's quite late there, so I'll be mindful of your time and hope that you can stay awake. But I guess that's just an easy place to start. Like, what's the situation in Japan at the moment? Like, I'm pretty sure that when we're talking about sort of the impact of COVID and everything else, I feel like the leagues there have been pretty well protected compared to many other places, obviously, particularly in Europe. But yeah, like, kind of how's it been and what's the sort of situation?
Yeah, in terms of COVID as a country as a whole, it's doing pretty well. I would say before COVID, the Asian culture is just, they wear a mask, but they wear it because they feel sick. So they're not trying to spread it to other people. Whereas I feel like more of the Western culture is now we're wearing the mask to protect ourselves. So it's like maybe a whole mind shift change, where it's, I guess it's just a cultural difference. And, I think that's helped a lot with Japan. Obviously they've closed their borders off completely for quite a while now. They had a little scare around Christmas time where I'm sure pretty much every country had that. And they got to about 8,000 people. But it's back down to almost less than 1,000 now a day. So, and that's cases, not deaths. Yeah. So they're doing really well. The only thing is they don't have the vaccine going on right now. They're a little behind on that. So, with the supposed Olympics coming up, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of actions, are put in place for all of that. In terms of the league, we get tested once every 2 weeks. Some teams have caught it, but they've handled it really well with, postponing games and trying to make it up. We're hoping to have a playoffs, but if any teams are too far behind, we might just do more of like a football situation where, the team at the top of the league, just gets promoted at the end of it. But yeah, so far we're doing well. We've got a couple more months of regular season, but knock on wood, we're doing pretty well.
In terms of fans being allowed in the arenas and stuff, are you playing with fans full capacity? Like, are you playing with no fans? What's the situation?
Right now it's at 50%. By 50%, I mean that, you have a family and then one seat space and then another. So if you buy a ticket for yourself, there would be a one-person space.
Okay.
But if you get families with 5 or 6 people, it starts to look like a decent-sized crowd,
Was part of your decision to go back to Japan this season? Did COVID impact that at all? Like, was it part of the fact that you kind of obviously at the start of this season, you would have known that basketball in Europe and kind of over here is in the West is pretty drastically impacted. Did that factor into your decision on making a decision on where to sign?
Most definitely. There's, like you said, there's a multitude of things that go into your decision. Obviously, the comfortability of being here before. I got injured around December, so I left for America and was in America in January when it all started popping off. So I kind of got stuck in America for a long time.
This was in this is at the start of 2020.
2020, yeah. Sorry, it's been so long now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was 2020, and then leading into the summer, that's when I was trying to make my decision for this year. And I thought it was just best to go back to, somewhere I know. Obviously, Asia and Japan, they're handling the virus very well. And even back then, it was clear that they were handling it pretty well. So in terms of my safety and, trying to actually get a full season of playing and security in that sense, I thought it was quite a good move to come back, yeah.
Are you in touch with a lot of the other British guys that are playing, professionally overseas and stuff? And, have you had conversations with them about kind of them talking about the situation where they are and, them potentially saying you're lucky where you are, that you've got a relatively sort of normal situation compared to everywhere else?
Yeah, I briefly speak to a number of guys, class of 95, the golden generation, whatever they want to title it. Yeah. I spoke with Luke and Mo, and actually spoke with Byron Mullins because he played out here my first year in Japan. And then he obviously is looking to play for GB and stuff. So, all of that being on his radar, we've had a quite good few conversations recently, and he went to England to play, and now I'm in Japan, so it was kind of cool to see the differences. And he was saying that I've heard from a number of people that England is struggling, so I guess I'm quite blessed in that sense.
You mentioned it there, like obviously GB senior program. You were announced on the most recent squad list before this sort of upcoming window. I think kind of because people knew that you were in season. I think everyone knew it was going to be likely to be a long shot of you being able to play. But how far off do you think we are from potentially seeing you, suit up with the GB seniors? Like, is that something that is very much on your radar, on your bucket list of something that you want to do? Like, I'd just be interested in hearing your sort of thoughts around it and your communication with the program.
100%. It's definitely on my radar. I have great communication with the guys, Jamie especially, and
that's Jamie Smith.
Yeah, we've been talking for a couple of years now. Yeah, Jamie Smith, and we've been talking for a couple of years, and unfortunately, when you're on a Japanese team, it makes it a little tougher to get that green light to leave to go and play internationally. And then obviously, like you said, I did get announced, but with COVID, Japan closing their borders, even if you do have a residency card, it can be a struggle to get back in for people. So unfortunately, we couldn't make it work this time. It was great to see the results. I was tuned in at 3:00 in the morning watching them. Don't tell my team, but I was having a great time watching the lads really going out there and competing with the top tier teams.
Obviously, them. Do you feel like as long as the windows stay as long as the qualification windows stay as they are, the likelihood is that for you to get you into camp, it's gonna most likely be around a major championship like Eurobasket 2022, which they've obviously qualified for now. Like, do you think it's gonna be do you think your involvement with the program is gonna be limited, providing that you continue to play in Japan, is gonna be limited to being around the summer months as opposed to sort of the in-season November, February windows?
I mean, it'll be a lot easier, definitely, to be there in the summer. But I think it's more about COVID right now. I really do think that I'm looking to pursue it, and if my situation stabilizes with teams over here, the more that I'm known here, the easier it is to kind of ask a team beforehand when you're signing contracts to be like, I do need this 2 or 3 weeks here and there to go and play for my national team. Japanese culture, they find it very honorable to go and play for your nation and being proud of that. So knowing ahead of time and scheduling, and if we can all get everything aligned, then I can definitely see it happening.
Excellent. So let's rewind it back. Let's go to the start, like the early days, the early years. Before you started playing basketball, rugby was the thing. I think you're actually a multi-sports person, but rugby being the main thing. But I would love to kind of hear your, I guess, early start within sport and how you ended up getting steered towards the game of basketball.
Yeah, honestly, it started from like elementary school. I just, every time we got out for our breaks, I was doing whatever the boys were doing. It was usually football, but whatever we could get our hands on, we were doing it. And then that kind of led my mum to throw me into like every sport known to man. I went from gymnastics to tennis to, football on the weekends, with rugby the same day. I was just trying to get my hands on anything I could at that time. And rugby kind of stuck with me for about 10 years. And I was playing fly half. So I usually tell this story to Americans and they don't know the position, but it's quite refreshing to tell people, and they'll actually know the position. But obviously they're a little smaller and quicker in that position traditionally. So I got to about 6'6", and they told me to get in with the forwards and turn my ears inside out. And I said, nah, I'm all right. So I've been playing basketball for maybe 6 months when I was about 15, 16. But seriously, it was like just for my secondary school. It wasn't anything serious. And just went for it. I just decided it was time for a change. I don't really know, can't remember what sparked it. Obviously, the conversation of moving position was something, but something in my gut just told me basketball was going to be the move. And started out at a really low level with the Essex Leopards. If people still remember them, because they've moved on now, but then decided that I was going to move. Instead of going to sixth form with my secondary school, I decided that I was going to go to Oaklands. And I did actually look at the rugby program and the basketball program, and ended up going along with the basketball program once speaking to Lee Ryan and Michael Ball of the program there. And don't know, everything just kind of fell into place, They
how serious were you about like basketball at this point? Like, was it, like obviously, like you just said, you were still considering rugby as well, potentially doing both at the college. Like, in your head, was it kind of like, I'm getting my education and I like sport and I like basketball and I like still rugby a little bit, and I'm going to carry on doing it on the side, like, or had it started becoming in your mind a thing of like, maybe I'm going to pursue this quite seriously?
I think when I first went there, I think it was just the love of sports, honestly. And then I think the passion of Michael Ball and Lee, the two of them just sparked something inside of me. I've always been a competitor and wanted to be the best at what I'm doing. And I think their passion and their vision for me, traveling across the water to America to go and play in college, and then telling me my potential, it kind of started dawning on me. And once they saw a few results, I think the blessing of playing a multitude of sports is, you can have a bit more coordination than, someone starting up fresh potentially. So I had a bit more footwork and I could, pick up things a little quicker. So they started to throw me into more individuals, and, we really started attacking it. And that's when it really started to become serious for me.
I mean, I assume like your height must have played some of a role as well, in the sense of realizing what an asset it is to basketball in comparison to other sports. Like when you talk about sort of your growth, so you're what, like 6'6" at 14, 15, like kind of what was your progression from there? Because now you're officially listed at 7'1", right?
Yeah, listed at 7'1", probably more like 7 foot with, and then you add the shoes, whatever. But
So what was the progression of your height and sort of and realizing, of course, that obviously your height was a huge asset within the game?
Yeah, probably around 15. I was 6'6" ish, and I was a center for whoever I was playing at, and I genuinely just didn't know much about the sport at all, and it was once I got to Oaklands that I kind of started to realize where I was at, and that's when I was starting to hit 6'7", 6'8", still the tallest guy, but I'm watching NBA.com highlights back in the day, and I'm starting to see Blake Griffin. He's 6'10", so maybe I'll get to his height, and this kind of stuff. And I think by the time I left college, I was probably 6'11". By the time I left Oaklands, I was 6'11". So I was just gradually hitting those numbers and thinking, blimey, I actually sound like an NBA height now, and like things like this started to go through my mind. So started to become more of a realistic idea,
Were there difficult moments of I guess, like, one of the things we always see with big men is that just trying to sort of understand their body and get coordinated, get their hands better, like all that. Were there difficult moments kind of in that early development phase of like really trying to get to grips with just how big you were, your movements, your fluids, or do you think you already had that solid base from all the other sports that you've been playing?
I think normally for big men, it's their footwork that they're behind with, and I actually think my footwork was there. When I first got to Oaklands, when I was doing these individuals, they reconstructed my whole jump shot. I don't remember how I was shooting the ball, but it must have been dreadful because they broke it down to every part of my body, from the ankles to the wrist to the fluidity of the motion, and like I guess. It's helped now in the future, but at the time I'm like, I'm so young. I'm just like, I'm trying to go up and down the court 5-on-5, and they're like, no, easy now. Let's break it down. And, so I'm grateful for what they did for sure. But I think it was more of like just learning how to shoot the ball properly at that moment. Everything happened so quickly from, I'm at Oaklands and I'm learning literally the mechanics of how to shoot the ball. To then like almost the national teams knocking on the door. I think that was a lot to do with my height and how I was doing in the college games, but it really did feel like it was overnight and I was thrown in the deep end.
Yeah, I do remember kind of you just sort of almost coming out of nowhere a bit. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like, especially with big kids, like you hear about them a lot earlier. There's a kid up here or a kid here that's doing this and he's this tall or whatever. But it definitely felt like you kind of come onto the scene out of nowhere, and before you were playing with the under 18s and everything else. Was there a moment for you that you felt like, I guess things started clicking and you started thinking, oh, actually, like I'm pretty good at this. Like, I'm all right. Like compared to my peers and everything else, like I feel like I've got a chance at, maybe getting that scholarship to the States or maybe having a professional career. Like, was there a specific moment that stands out, or do you think it was just a gradual thing?
I think it was interesting that I went to Oaklands, because without knowing it, I think it was one of the better decisions I've ever made. Because I did 1 year with Oaklands and it was still a very developing program, and then the bigger teams, Barkin, they offered up their services, and I think a lot of people, if they had more information and knew more about basketball than I did at the time, would probably have taken that opportunity to go to Barkin or to a bigger place. But I think staying where I was at, I had more opportunity, not only in the games to try more, experiment a little bit more, but also, all the hands-on sessions that I got with Lee and Michael were just invaluable. And I think that's what really propelled me forward. I distinctly remember us going to Belgium on an early under-18s tournament, and I was like, I'm putting the jersey on and it has England on the front of it, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, last year I barely made it into the county side, and 1 year of development, and now I'm putting on a jersey for England, standing next to Luke, and I'm like, this is nuts. But yeah, I've always just been a guy that kind of like just throws himself at it, and it'll either work or it won't. Just trust in my head on my shoulders. So it was really cool to just go out there and compete, and I think that was kind of the turning point where I was like, oh man, I'm with the best of England now. Like, And then I started to see myself find my way in the games, and every kid's pulling up his highlights, and you find the second. You're going through the seconds of the game trying to find where you hit that jump shot, or you did a move you didn't know you could really do, kind of thing. And it was really cool to find that confidence in myself, almost by like, man, I can actually maybe find myself doing this in the future.
I was going to ask, at any point did you feel, I guess, little bit out of your depth? When you like you referred to there, like the 95s are the sort of the golden generation, so to speak. That was how they were referred to at that point. And when you talk about that England under-18 group, there was Luke Nelson, Kingsley Okoro, Jules played with them, who's obviously he was 96, but he's kind of in that sort of group. I'm trying to think who else in the 95s. Yeah, obviously Mo Sholawade. Dwayne Arija, Terrell Isaacs, who was a beast as a junior.
Yeah, he was a monster.
So there was so much talent in that group. And like you said, like you were putting on a New England jersey, Cavell, yeah, of course, Cavell, Bigby Williams, and like you just said, yeah, like a year before you're thinking, just barely making a county side or whatever, and now here I am putting on an England jersey, and you're playing with all these great players. Was there any point where you're like, this is above me, like the level of these players, I don't feel like I'm good enough, or was it very much like you got there and it gave you the confidence because you felt like, oh, I'm hanging with these players who I know are all great?
I think that's a quick development that happens within the tournament, within the the practice sessions leading up to it. Oakland's not being too far from Ipswich. Ben Mead had been on the scene for a long time.
Ben Mead, yeah.
Tamas was extremely skilled.
Tamas
and it's just like,
yeah.
There's a ton of guys there that they all were good at something. And it's like, looking at the skilled guys, I'm like, I don't know if I'm as skilled as them. And then the size of Kingsley, I'm like, I'm not as big as him. And Cavell can jump, and Luke's skilled all over the place and quick, and all these guys are athletic. And yeah, you definitely question yourself when it's such an immediate change from the local sides, effectively. And it was really cool to kind of just throw myself. It was definitely the deep end, but I feel like I've always done that. I feel like going to the underage groups, I was thrown in the deep end and kind of just went and figured it out. And then again, going to college was into the deep end. And you speak about the coordination and stuff. I think, the speed of the game, every time I took that step, it does take time to adjust. And, I think my hands were a second slow when I took that step to putting on the national team jersey, and then maybe going to college again, my hands were slow again. And you gotta, you gotta start clicking a little faster when it comes to the game, because the speed does get a lot faster quickly.
The other thing that, of course, is relevant to that England under-18 group is that the head coach was the legend of the game, that is Steve Bucknall. He, obviously someone who has played at the level that he has played at and done the things that he's done in his career. He can be he is a very demanding coach. He demands the best. How was that as an experience for you? Like, I would be interested to actually hear, like, at that age, whether you were aware of his resume, whether you were aware of kind of what he'd done, and whether you looked up to him kind of like that, or not. And then secondly, like, I guess the environment that he created with that group, and how it was sort of being coached by him.
I think we all knew that he was a big deal, but I don't think anybody until you get into your 20s, honestly, you really truly appreciate the magnitude of what that man achieved. He was very demanding. He was very intimidating. The practices were harder than anything we'd experienced. Going 2 days on our 5 days in a row, that kind of stuff really pushed us. But he also knew what he was doing. He was not just preparing us for the national team, but he was preparing us for bigger things. And it was really cool, because you could tell that he cared about the guys, but it was always between the lines, we're locked in. Like, we're really pushing ourselves to get better. And I think that's what helped us as a team affect the most, was just, like you said, his demanding nature. But there was moments where you would see that he really cared about the guys, and, that just that in itself makes everything worth it, you know. So.
Was it that first summer? I might get my years mixed up, but was it that summer? Was it the 2013 when you played in Division A? Like the group before you?
Yeah.
So you played in Division A and you finished ninth, which was at that point was the highest ever finish for a team, for a boys team in Division A. I think you beat Spain, so that was the big scalp there.
Yeah.
I guess, like, what are your standout memories of that campaign? And I think, secondly, like, are there any sort of standout stories, whether it's from certain players or whether it's from Bucknall, like anything that kind of sticks out when you think back to that summer?
That summer in Latvia, I remember Kingsley always playing Candy Crush on the bus on the way to the games. Remember playing Porzingis when we played Latvia. That was a hell of a matchup. He was already 7'3", and I thought I was the tall guy in the tournament until we go to tip ball, and I'm looking up at him like, oh my goodness, like. It was really cool seeing him too, because we've seen him obviously on the main stage in the NBA developing and becoming the amazing player he was. And Latvia was giving him the freedom to shoot those threes. And, you know, at the time you could see that he was mainly catching the alley-oops and he was slashing to the rim. And to see his outside game develop so much since I played him when we were 18 to when he was like really getting shown out after playing in Spain for a year. It was really cool to see how much he developed in such a short time. Because, you know, you always compare yourself to your peers and the guys around you. And when we played Latvia, I'm hearing the hype of him, and he won he was one of the 5 starters that got all the trophies at the end of the tournament. And I'm like, oh, I'm right there, you know. And then to see him go on and do what he's doing, it's phenomenal, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's always one of the things. I think what everyone loves about the junior tournaments is essentially seeing the future stars. You know, seeing the stars of tomorrow, seeing them as they are before they've fully developed, matured, and everything else. Like, at what point did sort of your recruitment from US colleges start? Like, was it after that campaign with the under-18s, or was it after? Like, kind of, yeah. Like, do you remember the first college that contacted you, and kind of how, I guess, was the whole recruiting process? Because I don't think you were that heavily recruited.
I wasn't at all. I actually got a recruiting agency to try and help me start up, you know, some interest, and they did provide me with a few. I had Pepperdine come through from there, and honestly, I can't remember too many of the names, but I had some Canadian schools, and you know, there was a good grouping of universities, but I guess Pepperdine would have been at the top of the list, but it was just by chance. Lee set up an individual workout with a guy that previously played for my coach at WKU, and it was just out of nowhere. I worked out with the guy's dad, and it was just one session for an hour, and he was teaching me the ins and outs of being a big man, and he was teaching me things that I thought I knew how to do a drop step, but when he broke it down into like where your foot should point towards the rim and like, you know, just things that I hadn't really thought about. I just thought I knew how to do a drop step, but when he really broke it down and finishing in, there's an invisible triangle between the rim and the backboard that you've got to aim for so that people can't block your shot, and all these little things. And I just thought I was getting a good, like, different kind of individual workout. And a couple of days later, he said, yeah, I thought Ben was ready for Division One. I told the coach he should give it a shot. And I ended up, I think the next week I was on the plane over. We flew there. I had one day at WKU, you know, jumped in the deep end again in a 5-on-5 scrimmage with them. Did all right, not great, did all right. And came back home on the plane with an offer. And it was kind of just out of the blue. I was almost ready to get ready for university in England, and it kind of just, you know.
Wow. Did you from that moment, like, you know, doing the visit, and then getting that offer, like, did you know instantly you were gonna accept and you were gonna sign with WKU?
I wanted to explore all of my options, but the time got limited. I think that was the second tour that we were about to take with if it was the under-20s at the time. I can't remember. It must have been the under-18 second tournament or something. I can't remember the timing exactly, but no, it must have been the same tournament.
It would have been I'm trying to think here. Your freshman year was 2013-14. So it would have been,
that's right.
So it would have been.
It must have been the Latvian tournament.
Yeah, it would have been under 18s. Yeah, in 2013.
Yeah, right around that time, we were super busy with different things, and I didn't have many weekends free around the summer that time. And the one weekend I went to WKU, and I wanted to go to Pepperdine, and obviously it's in Malibu. It would have been a lovely trip, but I don't know what was happening at the time, but I did not have the schedule to do it. So
you just made the decision, jumped in at the deep end.
Yeah, and I said that it's a great program. The facilities are great. The coach, sounds the dream. They're going to do that, but it sounded like a good opportunity for me, and I thought I was ready for it.
The other thing is, you were a true freshman, right? You hadn't done had you done a third year at Oaklands? You hadn't done a prep year or anything like that. It was you jumped straight from Oaklands as an 18-year-old to Division I basketball in the States, right?
Yeah, and I'm a June kid, so I'd literally just turned 18 as I went overseas. Yeah, as I went there, so wow. I was super baby faced, landed in the deep end with 23, 24-year-olds still grinding out college. It was quite the change.
I was going to say, like, what are your early memories of sort of stepping on campus for that first time, and the sort of that transition from, what you'd been exposed to in the UK at Oaklands and playing in the EABL to then, jumping and going to WKU?
The size, the speed, the physicality, just all on a completely different level, and that comes with the age of the guys. But I remember my freshman year, my starting big for my freshman and my sophomore year, his name's George Fan, and he ended up being the offensive tackle for the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, and he's with the New York Jets now. And I remember I have many memories of me banging down there in the post with him, and he's only 6'6", but he's a mountain of a man at 6'6", and he knew how to use his body, so he was getting into my chest and trying to finish, and I'm taller and longer than most of his competition, so I'm still blocking it every now and then, and we were really competing after it. But he was a great captain to me. One of my fondest memories was, it might have been my second day on campus, and he took me to Zaxby's, which is the chicken spot, and they had all the various levels of heat, and I said, George, you got it, just order me whatever. And to this day, he genuinely says he didn't know that he ordered the hottest thing for me, but I'm pretty sure it was like a freshman guy hazing, because I'm sitting there trying to eat the wings. He's finished his plate, he's got an appetite, so he's finished his whole plate, and I'm struggling to eat like my second or third chicken strip. And he's like, what is going on? You're sweating over there, like. And then for him to figure, I'm really struggling, and he had a bite, and he's like, oh my God, what have I done to you? He's like, you're not going to want to stay, are you?
Amazing. Well, do you think the biggest transition from the UK to the US is just the physicality and the athleticism? Like, is there anything else that kind of sticks out in your mind, or do you really think it is just the physicality? Because that seems to be, in the conversations I have with various players, that seems to be the thing that comes up the most.
I would say the scheduling of college as well. I'm sure a lot of people have spoken about that as well, but the grind of waking up at 7 every morning, you've got study hall, you've got food, you've got classes, you might have an individual between classes, then you've got 3-hour practice, then you've got to go back to study hall, then you've got dinner, which is all mandatory. Weights is somewhere in there, and then you finish up all your homework, your coursework, and then that's 10 o'clock. You watch a couple episodes and you pass out knowing that you got to do it all again. That's quite a whole culture shock, system shock to, that is seriously different from the systems we've got in England.
Did you get homesick?
My first year I did. We got 4 days off around Christmas, and I actually flew all the way back just to spend 1 or 2 days at home. The later years, I didn't need that as much. I had more of a family out there. I made good friends with one of the managers, who's still one of my best mates, and his family would always take me in on the holidays. But definitely that first year, it was rough. I didn't know if I was going to make it for a while.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the things that stands out. It's not that it should be that remarkable, but it's the fact that you did all 4 years at Western Kentucky. And when we're talking about British players in the US college system, one of the things we see repeatedly is guys transferring, guys leaving, going to different schools, and everything else. Like, what do you think it was that I guess allowed that to happen for you? Like, was it a case of, I don't know what your mindset is, but when you commit to something, you see it through, and even though, even in your senior year, it's not like you're playing 35 minutes a game or whatever, and you're kind of like starting every single game, minutes, even though you're obviously a key part of the team, it's not like you were the superstar type thing, but you stuck it out and you saw it through, and you've kind of followed your path, and obviously now you're playing professionally. But yeah, I'd be interested to kind of hear your thoughts around sort of staying at the same program for 4 years, whether or not you did have moments where you're thinking about leaving or transferring, and what it was that allowed you to do that, where a lot of other British players have been unable to stick it out.
I'm a loyal guy, so I feel I resonate with the Tim Duncans of the NBA, and staying with an organization. I fell in love with the people of the town, and my teammates were great, but and the schooling was great as well. It was a really nice situation to be in. Obviously, there were definitely times where I was considering it, where I wanted to, maybe try my luck somewhere else, and like you said, maybe find that place that will give me the 30 minutes, and maybe I can get the stats to really push it for the next level. But I don't know, one way or another, I always found myself wanting to stay and stick it out, and maybe something new will happen. I did my first 3 years, and my minutes were going up, and I started towards the end of the year. Unfortunately, we had some issues, and the coach had to leave after that third year, and we had a new coach coming in, and that's when I seriously considered it, because I thought maybe I don't want to be part of a rebuilding year. Maybe it's better to move, take a year off. I might even be able to start a master's or something. But on the other hand, I just thought I was ready to be a pro. I thought that I was capable of it. I know my stats definitely didn't say that. But I had that self-belief that I was like, you know what, I can stick this out. And this senior year, I'm really going to go for it and try and, make something of it. But irregardless, I feel like I'm going to find my way as a pro. And, I believe I've done that so far.
I was going to ask you whether or not sort of the statistical side of things, the numbers side of things, is kind of in the back of your head. Like in other conversations I've had with pros, they've been very open and honest about the fact that as a professional, you are aware of your numbers, because that is what's essentially going to be able to allow you to get a job next year. Like if you're not getting the numbers, 100%. It makes it difficult. Now, obviously, you at college, like you said, your numbers were solid, but it's not like they're jumping out at you and saying this guy's a star, this guy's a future pro, whatever else. Like, I think field goal percentage was always ridiculous, and I think shot blocking, you ended up as WKU's fourth all-time shot blocker by the time you left. So on that side of things, like obviously great. But like when you're at college, are you thinking in your head, when I graduate here, I want to be a pro, and if I want to be a pro, I need to get numbers. Like I need to have a resume that says I'm a pro. Like, is that something that's kind of thinking in your head, or were you a bit more laid back about it and just thinking, well, do you know what? Like, I feel like I know that I'm good enough. If people were to look at my highlights, they know my ability, they know my height, they know my athleticism. I'll be able to get a job. Like, I'll just be interested to kind of hear your sort of thought process around it.
There's definitely a balance of what you said. It's got to be, the numbers are the first thing that always stick out to a team. The NBA aren't going to even consider you if you're not a big getting a double-double or, something along those lines. So I knew from the jump that if I didn't have decent numbers, there had to be other attributes or saving factors for me. And like you stated, the shot blocking was definitely something that I held dear to me in college, more so than even as a pro. I was really pursuing that shot blocking, attribute, if you want to call it, just because I wanted people to know that, when you watch my highlights, you're gonna see both ends of the floor. You're gonna see me running in transition. You're also gonna see the block shots. You're gonna see the dunks. You see a sprinkle of jump shots, from college times. Not too many, but and you see a couple post moves. But it was definitely in the back of your mind. It always is. I think more so as a pro, you become aware of your numbers. I think in college, again, it's still, you don't know the whole scene and like what it's all about being a pro. So you don't have that prior knowledge necessarily to know that your numbers have to be where they're at. So I think I didn't fully understand what I needed. And maybe, if I could go back in time, maybe I would try and do something different. I found myself thinking, how else can I be, saleable, marketable, and thinking about my shot blocking, my size, my movement, all those kind of things. I thought I could provide on a highlight tape.
When you look back at your 4 years at college, just to kind of, I guess, round up the college section,
Cool.
what were the sort of the highlights, the standout memories for you that you really look back fondly on?
It's always got to be those moments in the game where it could go either way, and you make a big play or your team overcomes the odds. That's always my favorite and fun times. I remember catching alley-oops to send it to overtime, big chase down blocks, all those kind of things that you hold dear to you. Playing Louisville at our home gym and having it was sold out and people were sitting in the walkways just trying to watch the game, and Montrez is going down the lane the first 2 minutes of the game dunking on our big men, and we're like, oh my god, like this is going to be a long one. All those kind of memories in terms of basketball, really, you just can't forget them. The rest of my college experience, like I've already said, it's the people, it's the relationships you make. If you've got to go to study hall for hours and hours, it's the people that are there with you, the tutors, the people that no one really hears about, but you always make those really fond relationships and personable moments for you. Yeah.
Are you able to go back? Have you been back a lot since you graduated and turned pro?
I went back because of my injury. I actually got my surgery there, and I got to watch a couple games, and it was quite nice to walk the hallways again and reminisce. And I saw a few of my old professors, and it was really nice to go back and kind of just walk down memory lane. But no, other than the one time I haven't been back. I got lucky where I could see two of my old teammates. They came into town to see me, and that was just really nice. Going out to dinner, seeing what they're doing now after basketball. George being in the NFL, and the other guy, settling down with a lovely wife and doing well for himself in his career.
Awesome. So when it came to turning pro, I guess, how did that end up happening? What was the process like? Was it a case of I assume you start getting messages from agents and stuff, and you sign with an agent, break it down for us, kind of the transition from college to the pros.
Yeah, I wish I could say I had more offers from agents than I did, but I had a handful. You could probably count them on one hand, but one kept turning up, and he did a few individual workouts with me, and what I was hearing from him sounded more truthful than some of the other car salesmen out there. And
did you find you had people trying to peddle you BS?
Yeah, a little bit. It's part of the industry, so you need to be aware of it. And they'll all try, and if they know that one's coming and they know each other, then they're going to try and belittle the other one, all that kind of action. But I found the one that I thought was right for me, and I was lucky that I got to go with him to. He was actually based in West Virginia, and I went there for the whole summer, and we worked out with the group of guys, about 10 guys, and we went really hard for the whole summer, and that really elevated my game going into a pro situation. It built my confidence to a point where I felt like I could go against anyone and still produce.
Did you second guess turning pro at any point, like in those, whether it's those months doing the training? Did you think, do you know what? Like, I could probably, I don't know what your degree was in, but whether I could get a job in as a whatever it might be with your degree and earn a solid salary and it would be good, or like really pursue this pro basketball thing, which of course a lot of people don't understand, and I'm sure you probably have plenty of friends sort of not getting really what you're trying to do. And that must be challenging in itself. Like, yeah, I'd be interested to kind of hear what you think about that.
100%. Obviously, we spoke about it. My stats weren't, mind blowing. So it was definitely in the back of my mind that I might not actually be able to be a professional basketball player. I really felt like I was on that borderline of like, will I even make it? So in my head, I said I would kick myself if I didn't try and be a pro. So I really decided I'm going to take it this 1 year. I'm going to give it my all, and we're going to see where the chips lie after in the next summer. And if my career hasn't elevated from, a lower level, maybe I can just go and be an accountant with my economics degree, and maybe that would be a better route for me. But it was really nice to, take that job, the one job that did come really late in August, right before season started. It was really nice to take that job and give it my all.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I think it's Jeff Bezos has got like it's called like a regret minimization framework, but it's that whole thing where it's like when time and time again when they interview people that are on their deathbeds or whatever and ask them about their lives, it's always the things that they didn't do or didn't try, not the things that they did do that they regret. And very much like the things you're saying there, where it's like, well, I'm going to give it a go, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I feel like that's the way. I think that's the best way to be, because there's no more questions in your mind. It's like, well, if I do it and I fail, well, at least I've done it and I know, and then I can be an accountant or whatever, rather than always wondering, I wonder if I could be a professional basketball player. So you ended up signing in Cyprus. Was that the only pro contract offer that you had?
I had a couple, but there are some contracts out there that you don't even really want to take it for the money that they're offering, and Cyprus ended up being reasonably good for the money. As a starting contract for a person with my stats, and I was advised by the agent that this is probably the best move you're going to get. So if this is the opportunity you want to take, then go for it.
And it's a beautiful place to live, right? Location wise.
Oh, it was lovely. I was on the Turkish side, so they're not quite as developed as the Greek side, but wonderful people, beautiful beaches. We had one game a week, so we'd have a couple of days off in the week, almost a semi-pro situation. So it was quite nice. You can go and chill on the beach on your off day, and beautiful women, all the rest of it.
Did you, I mean, it's funny, like you putting it like that, like, did you think, I've done it. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is like, obviously maybe I'm not earning the millions that I would be in the NBA, that that's what I originally wanted to do or whatever, and maybe I'm not in a major city or whatever else, but actually I'm in a beautiful country. I'm getting paid, maybe not a lot of money, but I'm getting paid to play the game that I love. I've got a couple of days off of the week where I can go on the beach and be around these amazing people. There's great food here. Like, was there part of you that felt like I have done it, like I've achieved what I'm trying to do, or was it always like there's more that I want to achieve, I'm not there yet, I've got a lot more work that I need to put in? Like, yeah, kind of what was your sort of mentality around it all?
I definitely think the overriding feeling was that this is just the start, and it's going to be a stepping stone, and I have to do everything I can to get to the next level. But there's always those moments of just relief and bliss that is like, oh, I've actually done it, I'm a pro. Those little moments where you find yourself driving and you're by yourself, and you just think, I've taken that step that I didn't know I could take, is quite nice. But I don't know what's more satisfying, that or going out and performing on the Saturday and getting the stats that you need for that next job.
When you talk about highlights of that year, I feel like vaguely in my memory, I have you hitting a shot at some point. I feel like we featured on Instagram that you hit some type of game-winning shot in the playoffs or something like that. That was like to I don't know if it's to win the series or to, I don't know what it was. Like, can you remind me and kind of recap the story?
Your memory is incredible. I've got to say, other than the friendships I made there, yeah, that game-winning shot. It was the semifinals. We were the outside village that lived on the coast, and we happened to have the university, the European university. So we had a bit of money there, and our little village was up against the capital city of the island. And
so you were the underdogs.
Semi-finals. Yeah, we were the underdogs for sure. It was 5 games in a series. You know, we won the first 2, we lost the next 2. We were at home for the last game. We went to overtime, and then in that last 5 minutes, it was a tied game, and my Serbian point guard brings it down the floor. We play pick and roll, but instead I popped for once and, you know, pop out to the 3 and hit the game winner. Yeah, that's a moment that definitely will resonate with me and stick with me, like you said, to the deathbed. So
I was going to say, when you talk about sort of childhood dream moments, like, does it get any bigger than that? Like hitting a game? Was that in the finals or was that in the playoffs? Like, was that the actual finals?
It was the semi-finals.
It was the
semi-finals of the playoffs. Yeah, so it sent us to the finals.
Wow. And then what happened in the finals?
We won't talk about that.
Okay. Fair enough, but you had your moment anyway. But yeah, what a moment! I'll try and dig up that clip because yeah, I do remember it, and it was pretty decent crowd there as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about a little.
It looked
island,
decent. It looked decent because it was it was a small gym.
The number of seats that are there, it was absolutely chock-a-block. It was packed. Yeah. And he was at the end of his career, but the guy I was up against the whole series, his name's Kambala, and he played for Real Madrid. He's a Latvian big, and he's got all the credentials. He played for Efes, and so it was really cool going up against him. And he's a big bruiser, so trying to deal with him the whole series, and then to like hit that game winner was kind of the relief I needed to like move past that series. You know?
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. Hopefully you do grab that clip because
I'll try and find it.
I'm proud of it.
It has to be on it has to be on Instagram somewhere. Like one of the things I've really enjoyed recently is obviously Instagram's added the archive feature, so you can go in and you can see what you've posted on that day, however many years ago. And because I mean, we've been running the Instagram account for I don't even know 8-9 years now, and pretty much posting pretty consistently when you're talking about sort of daily or almost daily. I can go in any day and I can see the stuff that we posted 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, and then sort of reposting it and having the memories is awesome. So yeah, I'll have to try and dig it up. So you did this was so your rookie year was 2017-18, so this is only like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I guess after that year you did what you needed to do, you got your numbers or whatever. Like, did you have a lot of pro teams come knocking after that? Like, did you have a lot more interest than you had after your college career? I don't know whether your smile was just told me the answer to that question, but kind of, I guess,
definitely.
what happened after that year, and you know, ultimately we know that you ended up in Japan, but like, how did that happen, and kind of what was the sort of the lay of the land in terms of the offers that you were sitting on?
We were dreaming while we were in Cyprus, and we're saying, if we do these kind of numbers, you know, the Turkish teams are going to come knocking. And sorry to break the news, but no teams came knocking. There was a part of me that felt like it was almost a wasted year because I got all these numbers that I thought I needed. You know, I had 20 and 10, and I felt like I was on top of the world. And then I came out of it, and it didn't really interest anybody. And it kicked me a little bit. But after that, I kind of rebounded, and, you know, I got back to West Virginia, and we were on the same program again. And I think my motivation just built up even more to be like, I need to prove on a bigger stage now somehow. I need to find a way to the bigger stage. I need to prove myself and find my way. I knew I was worth more than I was getting paid there. I'd proved it to myself enough. I had the self-belief to take that next step. But it was only when we went to LA and we just happened to go to a workout. It was like a tryout. They had a couple Japanese teams, a couple South Korea teams. We actually went for a different guy to try out. And, you know, as we're a group of guys that work out the whole summer, all 5 of us, you know, jumped in there and went for it. And the first day it was all right. You know, I had a hook shot here and there, a couple jumpers, blocked a shot or something. And then the next day, they decided that we could pick our own team. So we picked all 5 of our guys that had been working out together. We were all on the same team. We got a guy called Devon Kuhn-Purcell, who ended up on the Denver Nuggets, and now he's killing it in Turkey. But we had a whole squad, and we were all ready to, go and kick ass. And it could have been anybody. It could have been any one of the five of us that would go off. We played 2 10-minute quarters. And, the first 10 minutes, I had an unbelievable game. I hit back-to-back threes. I had maybe 4 or 5 dunks. Everything just came into my hand. It could have, like I said, it could have been any of us that had just had that game, but it ended up being me. And my agent came over to me and he said, "Take your shoes off. You're not playing the second 10 minutes." And I went, "Why? I'm on fire. I want to go again." And I turned around and 2 Japanese teams were walking over to me. And I won't say how much, but it was 3 or 4 times what I was making in Cyprus off the bat. And, my jaw drops and my eyes sparkle,
I mean, there's so much to ask about there, but just quickly, when you try and when you try and explain why you think that, even though you did what you needed to do in Cyprus, you've gone there on a mission. I've got to get the numbers. Showed that I'm better than this level, whatever. You average your 20 and 10 or whatever. You hit your game winner in the semi-finals. But the offers don't come in.
Yeah.
Did you get feedback from anybody about why that is? Do you think was it just the perception of the level of the Cyprus league was so low that it doesn't count for anything, or was it something else about your game? Whether people felt like you hadn't developed over those 12 months, or I don't know what it is, but do you have any sort of knowledge of why the offers didn't come when you sort of had thought that they were going to?
I think it leans a bit to the credibility of the league. It's an up and down league. Some years they're well funded, some years they're not, and that makes it questionable to FIBA and to all the other leagues on whether it's of its legitimacy. Like I said, there were some decent players in there. Whether they were at the end of their careers or not, they're still the same IQs as when they were playing for FS and playing for the top teams. So there were quality guys playing there. But I guess it was to do with that. I didn't get any feedback in terms of my game and why they didn't want me or anything. I just genuinely didn't have offers that came in, period. Maybe it was down to my agency, I don't know. But it was just sad to say nothing came of it. So I had my week or two where I was all a bit down in the dumps, but then I pulled myself back and said, you know what, I've proved to myself, and that's enough for me. That's enough for me to know that I am a pro and I can stick this out. Because, a year before I told myself I'm going to give it 1 year, and if I don't have an increase in salary, I'm going to pack it up and go and be a banker. So I was at that point in those 2 weeks where I'm like, I've just done all of this work and felt like I've achieved everything and nothing's coming in. What's happening? And then I just kind of snapped myself out of it and said, you know what, I didn't need to prove it to them. I've proved it to myself that I'm a professional. And, when the next opportunity came, I think maybe someone was watching over me and the basketball gods, said, this is your time to go relish in the moment, maybe.
So you had this workout, and off the back of this workout, you had 2 different offers in Japan, right? Which obviously, as you said, were considerably more money than what you'd been earning in Cyprus, and I guess, I mean, do you think it's fair to say, and I don't want to be disrespectful in any type of way, but do you think it's fair to play in Cyprus? It wasn't necessarily a full professional situation. When you're talking about the money that you're earning, I would assume that you would have been able to earn more money as a graduate, as an accountant or whatever, if you'd done that, as opposed to being a basketball player. But it was a bit of money that kind of allowed you to pay your bills or whatever. Maybe you had some free accommodation as well. But ultimately, you're not saving anything. You're kind of living paycheck to paycheck or whatever. Whereas then this situation, or these 2 offers that then came in, it's like, okay, now you're a pro. Do you know what I mean? This is now an actual professional basketball contract offer. This is now you're earning good money that's on par with what, or more than what, people would earn in their sort of regular careers, out of university. You're going to a new country. Did you know instantly, I'm going to take these offers, this is what I want to do? Or were you, did you think, well, now that I've got these 2 offers, it proves to me that I can potentially earn a lot more money in this game, and I'm going to see whether or not I can, sell my services elsewhere and see whether I can get offers in other places.
I think it was more relief that something had come in the summer. Like I said, it was pretty cold for a while, and there was no buzz. So having those 2 offers, it kind of, I guess, yeah, like you said, it really did. It was like, okay, now I'm a pro. Like, I wanted to take the deals. I was a little cheeky and like, how much more can we ask? Can they bid against each other? Like, what we doing? But my agent was like, you know what? This is such a big step for you. Like, let's just be grateful that we've got this far. And I questioned him at the start, but I appreciated him because with the Japanese culture, they respect that kind of move. And he knew that ahead of time. And I was really happy with my decision on where I went, and had a great time with Fukuoka Rising Zephyrs. And glad to say that I've made a decent career out here in Japan so far. And,
I was going to say,
wherever I'm at in the future.
I feel like you might know better than me. I'm pretty sure Fukuoka was one of the teams that Jaflo Larkai played for a few years when he was in Japan. Do you know?
Very well could be. I know Matthew Bryan Amazing played for them not too long ago, and Jellybean Bryan was the coach. But maybe it was
Matthew. There's definitely been other British players that have played for them because I'm sure of it. But yeah,
Matthew definitely did, but I couldn't tell you about
Jaflo.
The chat.
Yeah. Okay. So you go to Japan. You play for Fukuoka. Fukuoka? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Fukuoka.
When I flew in, funny story. When I flew in, you have your tags, and there's only 3 letters for the airport stamps. So I went from Nashville BNA to Fukuoka FUK. So I'm like, where am I going? Like,
amazing
for them to tag it like that. Yeah.
Did you we hear a lot about the culture shock of playing in different countries, and more often than not, that's in Europe, right? Which of course there's going to be different cultures and different ways of living in Europe, but the transition, I think, from the west to the east is probably as extreme as it comes when you're talking about cultural differences and different ways of living. Like you mentioned there, we've had a couple of Brits that have played in Japan. You obviously now being the most recent one, but when you sort of talk about that cultural transition, I guess how was it? What are the things that stick out? Like for the average person, was there anything when you landed and you did your first couple of weeks or whatever that you're like, oh, I can't believe that this is how they do this, or this is how this works over here? Like, what were the biggest shocks that sort of stick out in your mind?
First and foremost, just trying to get around. I was reasonably well traveled in terms of Europe. So you see the Spanish language or the French language, and at least you're seeing the same alphabet for the majority. And you can, from the classes you've taken in secondary school, you can just about make out where you're going. But in Japan, you've got a whole different symbol, alphabet, and it's a big shock because you walk down the street and you don't know what anything is, and that initially makes you kind of just want to stay in your apartment and not venture out too far. But I was in a big city, which was Fukuoka, which is beautiful and the people are great, and I think it took me a good 2 weeks before I really made that leap into the culture where I was like, okay, I can tell this is food, but I don't know what it is. They might not have an English menu, but you know what? I'm just going to go in there with Google Translate, ask for whatever they make best, and see what happens. Another big thing is convenience stores like 7-Eleven. They're huge over here. They're on every corner, every block corner, and they have everything in there that you can imagine you would need. So if you ever need groceries, but you're not really a cook, that's where you go. You can grab your 2-liter bottle of water, your bento box, which is like a little Japanese rice dish with, your meat on top, whatever. So it's very hesitating when you first get here, but then once you dive into it, you'll find arguably the best food in the world, because whatever they do, it's fantastic. I'm a fan of most things, and I know some people aren't, but sushi to me is a gift. And they have like yakiniku, which is they bring in like beef. You know, you got Wagyu beef. They'll bring in that in. You have a grill in the middle of the table that you cook it yourself, but you can have all you can eat and all you can drink for 2 hours. So you take a couple of your mates and you have the best kind of stories and nights where you just, you know, having a few cold ones and cooking up, you know, all sorts of great food. So
do you feel like you've kind of embraced the culture and found yourself a second home there, so to speak?
It's tough to say second home because it is so foreign from, you know, an England or even more west of America. But I would definitely say that I found a place where I'm comfortable now. I think it's quite wholesome knowing that it was such a shock at the start and now I'm so comfortable here. It's quite a nice feeling to know that I've accomplished that in myself. But definitely the places that I've been, the people have definitely made it feel welcoming. I know I've spoken to some guys in the past and they'll say, well, I went here and I didn't really have a good vibe the whole time I was there. And I can't say that for Japan. I can definitely say that the people are very different. You know, they welcome you in different ways. They'll politely keep their distance, but you can see by their smile that, you know, they mean well. And that's enough for the culture over here. Whereas, you know, we walk down the street and you say, you're all right, mate. And it's different. But yeah, it's definitely a place that I know I could come and be comfortable at, you know.
Do you feel like longer term, you know, like with Jaflo Larkai, he ended up sort of essentially carving himself out a nice little niche in Japan and spending, I think, 7-8 years, like the majority of his career there. Do you feel like you could end up on the same path and end up spending 7, 8, 9 seasons there rather than sort of going to other different places? Or do you feel like in your head, when you're talking about sort of a basketball career bucket list, you want to play in other countries and experience other cultures as well?
I mean, there's always a bucket list of like, you know, I took my shot at the NBA with the summer league and stuff, but there's always like the allure of the ACB and, you know, even the Turkish league is just, they look phenomenal. It's top level competition, beautiful countries. I mean, what is there not to, you know, a want from those kind of leagues? And there's nothing to say I'm not going to pursue them in the future, but I definitely think that it's tough to turn down what Japan offers, you know. They have a decent setup with the league. They have big companies like Toyota, Mitsubishi, you know, Kawasaki, like all these big companies backing the teams. So the budgets are there. You're playing against 2 or 3 top level NBA or close to NBA players, and then the rest of the squad is Japanese. So it's kind of a cool dynamic that we've got out here. So, you know, it's tough to step away when you've got something good going. And I can see why he stayed for 7 or 8 years, because if you do carve that niche, this is the place where it can be quite fortuitous. Yeah.
When you talk about the level on the floor, you know, obviously your numbers in Japan have been pretty decent. Do you feel like your game is growing and developing? Do you feel like you're being challenged enough when you talk about sort of, on a game-to-game basis, the actual performance on the floor?
I feel like I get challenged in different ways out here. It's tough to say sometimes, but it can be from the coaching to the different styles to the different levels of IQ that different players have. A lot of players out here are, you know, 30 or above. And with that, you get a lot of experienced players that are going to out IQ you for the whole game. Well, that's perfect for a younger guy that, you know, comes in at 20, 22, 23, and he's enthusiastic, but, you know, when you're enthusiastic and a vet comes at you, they can trick you into some fouls, you know, and when you've only got 2 Americans and one's in foul trouble, you might lose the game on that. So it's really important to see the game of basketball beyond just, you know, throw yourself at it. Sometimes it's really got to be played more like chess, and it's interesting, that dynamic that you get from Japan more so. The game you play with the refs and all this kind of stuff really gets emphasized out here. Playing with the Japanese guys, there isn't really any drop off. they might not have as long wingspans, or they might not be 6'5", but the speed that these guys have makes it incredibly tough to, deal with sometimes. And once they get downhill, referees love calling fouls on big guys. So, you've got to be very careful.
I was going to say, do you get to match up with a lot of other 7-footers? Because I remember, I've seen some of your highlight tapes, and you just look like a flipping giant on the floor. Like, you generally, it always seems like you have been in a lot of, obviously only the highlights that I've seen, the tallest guy on the floor by far.
I wouldn't say by far. I mean, most of the Americans 6'8" and above.
Okay.
I would say I'm probably one of the tallest guys out here in Japan, but I wouldn't say the biggest guys. We've got guys that Josh Smith from UCLA. He's got to be 30 stone at 6'10", and still moving around, blowing people over. So
yeah.
There's different levels to it, but I'm probably one of the tallest out here. Yeah, but. Okay. When you match up against someone who's 6'9" and athletic, there's not too much difference in it. Yeah.
So the other thing I obviously want to talk about, and you did mention it briefly there, of course, was the stint with Memphis in the NBA Summer League, which was summer of 2019. So that would have been the last. That must have been the last one that happened pre.
The last one that happened.
Yeah, the last one that happened pre-COVID. I guess, how did that opportunity arise? And when you talk about that as an opportunity, kind of how was it? And I guess, do you remember that moment when you realised, you're going to play in the NBA Summer League? And I guess when you're talking about getting close to the league, that's as close as you can get almost without being in the league, right?
Yeah. So how it came about, I did a couple workouts. I went to Philadelphia. Then I went to Memphis, and I thought that I killed the Philadelphia workout. We had the interviews after, and they seemed really enthusiastic, and nothing came back. And then I went to Memphis, and it was less of a tryout, and it was more of a, you're just coming in to work out with the guys. And so I'm going up against Jaren Jackson Jr. We got Dylan Brooks on the other end, working out with one of my boys, and we were there for 2 days, and they extended it to 5 days. And we just, we're basically their practice body. They're getting better for the next year, and we're just putting up a bit of a fight. And I guess they saw enough where they ended up offering me the spot on the team, which felt pretty good because, the whole way through it was kind of unique with our situation because they had a first-year coach coming in. So he ended up being the head coach for the Summer League team, which doesn't really happen. Normally it's the G League head coach or an assistant takes the role. But we had the head coach going into the next season. So all the practices we were doing, it was like pre-camp practices for the squad, basically. You had Jaren Jackson Jr. out there with the Summer League team, getting runs in. Ja was sitting on the sideline, Ja Morant. I wish he didn't have his knee scope because it would have been amazing to play with him. But we had a quality team. So it was a lot of fun to get those practices in beforehand because it made it a lot easier going out there and playing against the other Summer League teams when you've gone up against some legit NBA players right beforehand.
Playing against, guys that are in the league or guys that are knocking on the door of being in the league, when you compare that to your own game, did it give you confidence? How far off do you or did you or don't you feel from being able to potentially have a shot at the league?
I think it's a fine line. I think a lot of it can be your lead up to it, to your position. I think drafted players will get preference over an international guy coming in to play in the Summer League and things like that. But when it comes down to ability, I think Jaren would say himself that we had a hell of a good couple one-on-one games, really pushing him to the wire. I think he got me most of the time, but it would be 5-4 or it would be 11-10, and we're really going at it. Him being one of the unicorns of the league, where he is 7 foot and can do a bit more. I think I actually surprised him that I could do just about the same skill set. We had our go-to moves, and it challenged both of us really well. So I think the coaching staff enjoyed it. They were getting excited watching us out there competing, and I think we had a lot of fun out there. Yeah.
Do you think NBA Summer League is something that you want to do again? Are you going to try and do again?
I would love to. Obviously, we've got to see if it happens and if the opportunity still arises. You know, I am 25 now, so I wouldn't look to do it if I'm 28. But you know, 26, 27, I would still love to get that opportunity again and really go after it. I don't think I was too far away. They offered me a G League spot, and at the time, you know, I was looking for a bit more. You know, just being honest. In the semifinals, I had 9-9, and against Cavell, actually, that was a really fun matchup in the semifinals of the tournament. Unfortunately, Zion wasn't in there, so, well, I say fortunately for my side.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I thought like I was close to, you know, maybe even getting a spot. So I would definitely like to go there and give it all I've got and not have any regrets, you know.
Oh yeah, you mentioned it there. Like when you know they offered you a spot on the G League team, you turned it down. Ultimately, was that just a financial decision? Obviously, at this point, you're playing in Japan. You know, as we all know, Japan have got decent budgets and, you know, can pay very well. Like, was it ultimately just a financial decision, or were there other things that played a role in it? Like, it's one of them. It's a tough one, isn't it? And we see, obviously, we saw Cavell do it, and I think Pops was the same back with his career, where it's like, you know, if the goal is the NBA, sometimes you feel like you need to be as close to that as possible, and to be as close to that as possible, and to give yourself that shot, it is to play in the G League, and that does mean taking for most guys that are sort of at that level, taking a pay cut, right? I guess when you were weighing up that decision, what ultimately made you decide to turn it down and sort of go back to Japan instead?
While we were playing some of the games in the summer league, you know, you don't just go back to the hotel room. If someone's interested in talking to you, you talk to them. So there was quite a few Japanese teams that were coming to me during my off days or in between the games, and we were having dinner and discussing. And some of the conversations we were having, it sounded, you know, better than a league minimum, you know, at that level. So it was really enticing. And when they came with the G League offer, I thought, well, maybe, you know, me and my agent spoke about it, and we thought I was at least worth a two-way, or, you know, or an Exhibit 10 with a bit of guaranteed money going into the G League or something. So getting just that offer, you know, was a little disappointing at the time. And it all happened so quick. They offered it the day I was leaving. And at that time I had some family problems, and, you know, I made the decision thinking it was best for, you know, my situation at the time. Looking back on it, would I have taken that G League spot with Memphis? Potentially, yeah. Because something could have come of it, you know.
Yeah.
With everything that's happened in the world now, was to say that, you know, knock on wood, a few COVID cases wouldn't have had me on a 10-day, or, you know, who knows. Being 7 foot, if you're on a G League team and you're doing numbers, if there's one or two, you know, unfortunate injuries, you can always find yourself on that squad. And I had first-hand experience with the coach, so. It was financial, and potentially I do regret it. So if I had the opportunity again, maybe I would, you know, definitely consider more of a pursuit for it, you know.
Are you with the same agent that you initially signed with out of WKU?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Wow, you stayed with him the whole time.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a loyal guy. He saw what he saw all the way back then when I wasn't producing much, and now I'm doing decent, and that, you know, we both had success with the summer league, and I'm happy to stay with him. Yeah.
Perfect. Right, let's do some short, quick fire questions just to finish up with.
All right.
Starting with, I might know the answer to this question already because we might have already discussed it, but maybe not. Your favorite basketball memory?
Just one memory. Yeah, it's got to be the buzzer beater. Maybe not the greatest, you know, league or platform, but they were all my brothers that I was playing there for, and even some of them against, and it was a great moment to, you know, hit a game winner in a series. So it's got to be that moment.
Best coach you've ever played for?
Oh man, best coach I've ever played for. You said he was going to be quick fire. Ray Harper, maybe controversial. He was my first college coach. He was the toughest coach on me, but from the first day I got there till the day he left, he said I had a golden ticket in my back pocket and I just had to cash it in. And he was brutal to me with the 3.5-hour practices, making me go again and again when George was beating me up. But he instilled me some toughness and some resilience that I definitely don't think I would have got in else places.
Best teammate you've ever had?
Can't answer that one. I have so many good teammates.
Okay, cool.
Too many to count. Yeah.
The best British player that you've either played with or played against?
If Byron Mullins counts, I would say him. Cavell, I think, is such a unique guy. He's definitely a danger when he's on the court. And just seeing him develop over the last 4 or 5 years has been exciting to watch. But probably at the top for me is Luke.
Luke Nelson.
Being able to play a ball screen with Luke Nelson is unique in itself. So it's got to be Luke.
The best individual performance that you've ever witnessed?
Best individual performance I've ever witnessed.
Could be on your team or against you.
It was probably in the summer league. I was actually in the stands. The Turkish guy for the 76ers.
Korkmaz.
Futma. Yes, Futma. Yeah. He had 40, and I don't think the ball touched the rim. I think it was all... he was shooting from anywhere and everywhere, and it was probably... If someone's going to watch Steph Curry play, it was probably just as beautiful as that, but it was unbelievable just watching that guy just play the game that way.
Perfect. And then just to finish up with, what's in the future for Ben Lawson? Let's say the next 3 to 5 years, where do you want to be? What are you hoping that you're going to be doing?
Hopefully I'm still playing the game I love. Where that is, I don't know. I'm young, I'm ambitious, I'm pursuing all and every opportunity. I hope to have a GB jersey on my chest sooner rather than later. And, hopefully get back to England a bit more than the last 8 years and, enjoy my family a bit more.
100%. That's a perfect place to leave it. As you can see, the sun has slowly moved around and is now in the perfect position where it's literally blinding me as we talk, just as we finish. So it's the perfect time to finish. Ben, thank you so much for taking the time. I know, we're now probably it's midnight where you are. So, I really appreciate you staying up and doing this. Wish you all the best for this season. And like you said, I hope that we see you back home at some point soon, ideally representing GB. Thank you again.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Cheers, Sam.